welcome to my channel, Nancy's Solo Trips and Tips. Well, today I'm doing something a bit different. Normally I shoot a video of the country I'm in, and I wish I were in Barbados right now, but I'm not. I'm in Canada, it's cold. You can see that I've got a turtleneck sweater on. So this video, I'm going to be sharing practical, in-depth tips around traveling in Barbados. So for a small donation, you can download the complete transcript of this video, and you can download it first and follow along with me, or download it afterwards. So the first thing I want to say is Barbados is safe, it's easy to get around. I have never felt unsafe in Barbados. And it's easy, there's no culture shock, everybody speaks English. It's beaches, it's landscape, there's so much to see, and each coast is so different. You've got the North Coast, which is wild and just dramatic. The East Coast with its surfing and its big waves and windsurfing. The South Coast with Oystons, the fish fry, and Bridgetown, the capital. And then the West Coast, which is where I stayed. Whole Town is centrally located, and I chose that area because I love to snorkel and I love to swim. In Whole Town, I walked around at nighttime. I felt very safe on the beaches. I would walk into town after dark to go to the bars or the restaurants or for night entertainment. It was not an issue. Now, some areas like Bridgetown or unlit areas, I wouldn't walk alone. It's unsafe. Of course, use your common sense. Don't walk alone on the beaches at night. And you really shouldn't do that even if you're with other people. There have been situations, especially in the bigger city like Bridgetown, after dark, where people have been mugged, but it's been rare. The Bajan people are so friendly, so helpful, very courteous, and they really appreciate the income that tourism brings to the island. So I have always felt welcomed by them and helpful. So that's a big draw for me, is the local people. The other thing that's crucial is Barbados has good medical facilities, and you'll see in my video about Whole Town, the medical facility there is open 24 hours a day. It's a private clinic, top-notch facilities, and takes insurance, credit cards. So I felt very taken care of should there be an injury. It has the reputation of being expensive. However, it has lots of long-term self-catered apartments available. And I discovered that digital nomads also find it very useful to stay there. Now, the beaches are amazing. And yes, there are lots of islands with amazing beaches, but the thing about Barbados is that the beaches are public. That means that hotels are not allowed to own beachfront land. Some islands, that's not the case. In Barbados, the hotels are allowed to own land up to the watermark, but not the beach itself. And so this means that in Barbados, you can walk for miles. And I did a video about the Whole Town beach, and I showed 30 minutes of all the things you see just in 30 minutes along these amazing beaches. The beaches are all easily accessible. You walk off the highway, after 5 minutes, you are on a beach, and you don't hear the traffic. I've been to some islands where the beaches are right close to a highway, and that's not very pleasant. Lots of offshore reefs, easily accessible from the beach area. So I would just drop my beach mat, put on my snorkel gear, and go look at the fish in the small reefs near the shoreline. Barbados is easy to get around. I just took the public buses a lot. I would go up and down the coast, 10-minute bus ride from Whole Town. I'd be in Speightstown to go snorkeling and check out the beach, or take a 10-minute ride and go to Paynes Bay 10 minutes south of Old Town. So you can get around very easily. Finally, crucially about Barbados is the tap water is safe to drink. You don't have to worry about getting sick. I drank the water all the time. I would just put a jug of water in the fridge and have ice cold water. I really like doing that because it saves plastics going into the environment. Please do your part in saving plastic bottles from going into the environment. The islands don't have the capacity to recycle them, and it just goes into a landfill. It's really a big problem. So those are some of the main reasons why I love Barbados. And finally, its beauty is just spectacular. It has streets lined with leaf trees, and some islands don't have leaf trees, like Aruba or Bonaire, which are very dry islands. They hardly get any rainfall. They don't have many leaf trees, and they actually import some of their palm trees from Miami. Whereas Barbados, it has mahogany trees, has all kinds of amazing vegetation, trees, cactus, and the flowers are magnificent. And some of my favorite times were just walking at nighttime or dusk when it was cooler and just looking at all the vegetation in the different neighborhoods. The West Coast is often referred to as the Platinum Coast, and that is because it has great sandy beaches and the water is usually calm. So it's easier for swimming, it's safer, it's walkable, and it just made sense to me. So once I rented in Sunset Crest, I just kept going back to that area and then used that as my hometown base to explore the rest of the island. Now, Sunset Crest is interesting. It was originally just developed by some Canadians, which I didn't know until I did some research. So some developers in the 70s bought a tract of land near Old Town, and the land was just sugar fields at the time. And they bought this tract of land and they developed it to make it affordable vacation and home rentals for tourists and as well as locals. So that's how Sunset Crest got started, and it still is an official neighborhood. So the owners of the rental homes or the apartments or people who live there in Sunset Crest, some Canadians have a home there 6 months a year, as do a lot of people from the United Kingdom. People who have a home or apartment in Sunset Crest pay an annual fee. Part of that rental fee or annual fee that they pay is towards the beach club. So the beach club is a facility right on the ocean where you can go, and the owner gives you a fob, electronic fob. So if you're renting from someone, you get a fob or card from the owner, which gives you access to the beach club, which is part of Sunset Crest. You use the pool, the showers, the restaurant area, the pool deck, and you can walk right onto the beach from the beach club. The other thing about Old Town is the medical facility. And it was a big bonus to discover that that medical facility was only 5-minute walk from my apartment. And that's the other nice thing about Old Town, that everything is in walking distance. You really don't need a car. You don't need a car. I would walk to the beach club 10 minutes. I'd walk to Massey Supermarket 10 minutes. Everything is easily walkable. All the restaurants. So it saves a lot of money by not having to rent a car. The last thing I want to say about Old Town right now, it's peaceful. At night, I would sit in the patio area in the garden and I would listen to the tree frogs. If you really want a long-term, or, to me, I stay 2 months. Some people say stay 6 months. Book at least 6 months in advance. And the thing is that some people have been staying in the same apartment for 20 years. So these are people from United Kingdom or from Canada where they have found a perfect apartment they like. And before they leave the island, they always make the reservation for the next year with the owner. The other thing I learned is that people who rent long-term like that, once they got to know the owner, felt very comfortable booking annually with the owner directly instead of through Airbnb or VRBO. And this saves a lot of money on the service fees or commissions that these sites charge you. And also, if you're a returning tenant, sometimes you can even ask for a better discount because you're a returning tenant. They know you, you are a good tenant, and they're more likely to give you a discount. And I have a list of questions that I ask all the time. So instead of me having to reinvent the questions all the time, I've just made a list. I copy and paste those questions onto the booking site when I email the owner. Traveling alone in your area? Can I walk alone safely at night? Are there areas in your environment or around the neighborhood that are unsafe? What areas should I avoid? What other tips can you give me as a solo traveler? Are there extra costs for electricity and air conditioning? So read the cancellation policy very carefully. When tourists travel, the number one cause of death are traffic accidents. When you're crossing the street, make sure everybody has stopped. I have had power outages in hotels in Canada happen where I'm overnighting in a hotel, a fire alarm goes off. I don't want to be scrambling, fumbling around in the dark. So I always have my phone beside my bed, my money, my immediate possessions that I need to have, and my headlamp. So then it's easy, hands-free. I can walk while carrying things and not have to use my iPhone for a safety light. Ask the restaurant or staff to book you a taxi before you leave. That way you can guarantee it's an official taxi. Same thing at the airport. I ask the owner to book a taxi so the taxi arrives at the airport waiting for me. So I'm not scrambling and trying to get a taxi. Now in Barbados, the taxis are well marked and there's usually no problem about getting taxis. I felt safe taking a bus at nighttime. Usually, say Friday nights, people were going from Whole Town to Oyston's Fish Fry, which is a great outdoor party, basically with barbecue and entertainment. And I had no problem getting on the bus. I would just make sure I sat near some other tourists and I would say, hey, I'm traveling solo. Can I link up with your group while you're walking from the bus stop to the fish fry? Is don't sit under a coconut tree or don't park under a coconut tree. People have seriously been injured or fatally injured by a falling coconut. Is don't park under fruit trees such as mango trees or the coconut trees or other fruit trees because those trees attract birds and you're going to get a lot of bird poop basically on your car. And I learned that the hard way. It's not fun cleaning off. And the other thing is the fruit trees attract monkeys. So you'll have monkeys throwing things off the tree onto your car and possibly causing damage. I always get Bajan dollars before I leave Canada. So then I have Bajan cash to use for the taxi or at the airport. I find it's better to get a Bajan dollars in Canada because I get a better rate. When you go to the bank, always take your passport. About banking and shopping is that when you go to, say, Massey Supermarket, you can use Canadian credit card, and they will bill your credit card in Bajan dollars, and then the credit card converts the Bajan dollars to Canadian dollars and charges a conversion rate for the currency and then a service fee. But I find that is okay because at least I have a statement of what I have purchased, and secondly, I get points. Quite commendable. They're trying to keep plastics off the island and no longer use plastic bags for packing up your groceries. So you can buy usable bags there, reusable ones, or bring your own. WhatsApp is, I think, owned by Facebook, and all of the Caribbean uses that application for telephone because you can just make phone calls via the Wi-Fi. So then it saves you tons of money. In the beginning, I would always buy a local SIM card. I would go to Digicel or Massey Supermarket and get a local SIM card. But then you end up paying for data. And then secondly, I had problems when I used the local SIM card for this reason. I went to do my online banking, so my Canadian accounts, and as you know, banks now require a two-step verification where they say, okay, we can't recognize you until we send you the code for the second step verification. We will send you a text, type in the code, and then of course you have access to your account. However, the bank, of course, would not recognize my SIM card. They would send a text, but I wouldn't get it because it's a local SIM card. I had to remove the local SIM card, insert my Canadian SIM card into my phone, and then do my banking. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to stick to WhatsApp. I only use Netflix when I travel, so usually I renew it, say a month before I leave, but I forgot to do that. So I'm on Barbados. I try to renew Netflix, but of course, Netflix thinks I'm a scammer from the island trying to get into Nancy's account. It wouldn't recognize my password, nothing, because it thought I was scamming it. So the workaround is I had to call my friend in Canada on my laptop via Skype, and I gave her my password, my Netflix information, and I'm guiding her on the telephone while she's on her laptop entering all the information and renewing my subscription for Netflix. It's a tip that might save you some hassles. Coming from Canada, it was totally opposite. So I really had to teach myself how to drive on the left-hand side of the road. And the tip I found that was most useful is when I got in the car, I would have to say to myself, okay, my body always has to be near the center line. So that's the only way I could remember. And it seems crazy to you if you're used to the left-hand side of but the cars are even different. In Canada, we have the driver's seat on the left-hand side. In Barbados, because you're driving on a different side, the driver's seat is on the right-hand side. So I can't tell you how many times I would walk to the car and get in the wrong side of the car. Or some of the controls are backwards. Every time I was thinking I was hitting the turn signal, I actually turned on the windshield wipers.